Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Guys, this is the last topic from the food components, that is the protein. And here, uh, the main thing is that you know, uh, you know what are the monomeric units of proteins, and the monomeric units of proteins, that is obviously the amino acids. And further objective is to know the different primary, secondary, and tertiary quaternary structures of protein, and to identify the major functions of proteins. So when you understand, we go through this lecture, you will be able to understand amino acids and the different kinds of amino acids, protein structures, their functions, and how the peptide bonds are formed. Now, if we go for the introductions, we know that proteins, they are the polymers of amino acids. Now, each these amino acid contains a central carbon, a chiral carbon. So, in the upcoming slides, I will explain you the chiral carbon with the variable R group. So, R is the variable in this structure, and this R group actually specifies which class of amino acid it belongs to. And they are electrically charged hydrophilic side chains, polar but uncharged side chains. So non-polar hydrophobic side chains and special cases. So these are the some other points. Now if we go through the, if we know to understand what is meant by the proteins layer, so I can say that proteins have different layers of structures. For example, primary layer, secondary layer, tertiary layer, and quaternary layer. And of course, they have a variety of functions in cells. Major functions include acting as enzymes, receptors, transport molecules, regulatory proteins for gene expression, and so on. Now, enzymes are biological catalysts that speed up a chemical reaction without being permanently altered. So they have active sites where the substrate reactant binds, and they can be either activated or inhibited, competitive and or non-competitive inhibited. So this is a little bit, introduction to proteins. So let's move to the first slide, that is proteins are actually, let me get my pen. Okay, so I need red pen over here. So proteins, these are the polypeptides which are made up of many amino acids linked together in a linear chain. So the structure of amino acid contains amino group, an amino group, a carboxyl group, and R group, which is usually carbon based and gives the amino acid its specific properties. Now, if we go to the next slide, so this is the structure. This is the structure of an amino acid. Center carbon, this carbon. This is a chiral carbon, okay? Now this chiral carbon have 4 different groups which are linked to this center chiral carbon. Number 1 is the side chain, which is called R. R represents the alkyl groups. So this one is the amino group, okay, NH2, and this one is the carboxyl group, that is COOH. So if the amino acids, they are different from one another on the basis of the number of or the kind of the chain, let me draw with this black pen, this number and the level of side chain. So this is the basic unit of amino acid. Now, if we go from here, you can see proteins form the very basis of life. They regulate a variety of activities in all known organisms, from replication of the genetic code to transportation of the oxygen and they are generally responsible for regulating the cellular machinery and determining the phenotype of an organism. Now, what is meant by phenotype of the organism? Okay, phenotype. So, what is meant by phenotype? So, phenotype is the observable physical or biochemical characteristics of an organism as determined by both genetic makeup and environmental influences. So this is the phenotype, and you can see the phenotype that if we go to the reptilian class, you can see that the reptiles belong to the desert area. They have different characteristics, different phenotype as compared to the other areas of the world. So here you can see this thing. Next, we move to the next slide. So proteins accomplish their task in the body by three-dimensional tertiary and quaternary interactions between various substrates. It means that whenever proteins, they work, okay, with various substrates, and they are very specific for the selection of the substrates. So their structures, tertiary and quaternary, are the actually which make interactions between various substrates. Now, these three-dimensional tertiary and quaternary structures are made from the primary structure and the secondary structure. So there is a hierarchy in the structure. So this is the primary structure, okay? This is the primary structure, uh, which is made up of, this is made up of chains. So this is the linear structure. All the amino acids, they are connected to one another via a bond which is known as polypeptide bond. Bond is peptide, peptide bond. So the bond is peptide bond. Then you see this is the secondary structure. This is the tertiary structure, which is made up of primary and secondary, and this whole structure is the quaternary structure, which is made from primary, secondary, and tertiary. Now we come to the functions. The proteins play key roles in the living system. They can act as the catalysis, as a catalyst. They can act as the transport thing, or they can be used for the transfer of information. So transportation के लिए, catalysis के लिए, और information transfer के लिए proteins play vital role in the living system. For example, if they are acting as a catalyst, so almost all chemical reactions in the living body are catalyzed by enzymes. For example, ये alcohol dehydrogenase is the enzyme which oxidizes alcohols to aldehydes and ketones. Transportations में अगर आ जाएं तो very good example of the transportation is the hemoglobin. This hemoglobin. So this hemoglobin, the role of hemoglobin is to when oxygen mixed with hemoglobin, it converts the hemoglobin into oxyhemoglobin, and then this oxyhemoglobin is then transported to the different parts of the body. Then we come to the information transfer, और information transfer में आपकी जो proteins हैं, they will act as the hormones. So insulin is a very good example because insulin controls the amount of sugar in the blood. So these are the three major roles in a living system, which is done by the enzyme proteins with the help of the enzymes. Enzymes are basically proteins. So these are the 20 amino acids. ठीक है, जो green amino acids हैं, they are all green हैं इसमें, blue हैं इसमें amino acids, और red iso. जो red वाले हैं, they are acidic amino acids. Blue one, they are basic. Green one, they are hydrophilic, और जो white हैं, वो hydrophobic हैं. ठीक है, हाइड्रोफोबिक हैं. इसमें वाइट की मेरा नहीं ख्याल के हमें नजर आ रहा है. Let's see in the next slide. Okay. Next we come to the formation of the peptide bond. Now what you need to see. Let me see. Okay. So this is the one amino acid. ठीक है, जिसका this is the N terminus and this is the C terminus. Now C terminus from carboxyl group, ठीक है, this whole is the carboxyl group, right? So this N is from the amino group, ठीक है, so this is the amino group. It means that these two are involved in the peptide bond formation. So this is the R1. So when they combine, they give you like this. Okay. This is R2, sorry. This is the another amino acids. So here we can put the value of R2 to show that this is the second molecule of amino acid. Again, this is the nitrogen terminus and this is the carbon. Now note that they arrange themselves in such a way that the nitrogen terminus must be parallel to the carbon terminus. So what happens? What happens? Again, the water molecule is removed, condensation occurs. Okay. Now let's see how these condensations occur. So ये जो bond आप देख रहे हैं, this bond, this is the new bond which is made between nitrogen and carbon, nitrogen and carbon. So ये नया bond आपका बना. इसके साथ this hydrogen is attached. अब ये वाला जो आपका molecule है, जिसकी कि मैं outline बना रही हूँ, this is then given off as a water molecule. ये बाहर आ गया. अब जब ये इसके साथ react हो गया, ठीक है, the rest of the molecules remain the same. So this is how the peptide bond is formed. So you can see कि ये peptide bond बना, ये आपका second molecule है amino acid का, and this one is the first. The two of them, they are connected via a bond which is called this bond, and this is known as peptide bond. When when multiple number of amino acids, they linked together with one another, we call it polypeptide bond. So since two are involved, so this is a dipeptide, three to tri, and many to, then we go to polypeptide. Next, these are the prime structures, secondary structures हैं, ठीक है, ये secondary structure है, and it is made up of two sheets. One is called alpha helix and the other is called beta sheets. So if I ask you, okay, what are the two main portions of secondary structures, you can simply write the answer alpha helix and beta helix. Or they have the bonds which are shown in green. You can see this bond, this bond. Here you can see this bond and this bond. These are the bonds which are known as hydrogen bonding. Next we come to three-dimensional structure of proteins. ये tertiary structures हैं सारे. And these are the quaternary structure. So we can say that the interactions with the specific substrates is done by the three-dimensional structures. And these three-dimensional structures are these. Next we move to the next slide. This is the hierarchical nature of protein. के प्राइमरी स्ट्रक्चर में सीक्वेंस्ड होती हैं अमाइनो एसिड्स, ठीक है, और सेकेंडरी स्ट्रक्चर में अल्फा हेलिक्स आर मेड एंड बीटा शीट्स. These two structures are made. Three tertiary structures में three dimensional structure formed by the assembly of secondary structures. So secondary structures जो हैं, सबसे पहले अमाइनो एसिड सीक्वेंस बनेगा, वो अपने आप को अरेंज करके अल्फा हेलिक्स और बीटा शीट्स को बनाएंगे. Then tertiary structures are formed by these are assembled in the specific way to make the tertiary structures, And once the tertiary structures are formed, so then structures which are formed from more than one polypeptide chains, तो ये आपके quaternary structures जो हैं वो फिर बनेंगे. Now this is a another example. It's this diagrammatic representation of the specificity of enzymes. So close relationship between protein structure and its function. These are called this is the 2D structures which are drawn, and this is the actual. For example, if I take this structure, so I can say that, let me get this number. This is the structure, okay? This is the hormone receptor, and this is the antibody. So hormone receptor में it has to be fit in this area because this is the area. ठीक है, तो ये इसके अंदर जब फिट होगा तो फर्दर इस पे वर्कआउट होगा. सिमिलरली जो फंक्शन है इसका एंटीबॉडी, इसको एक्सप्लेन यहाँ पे किया है इस तरह. ओके, let me come to here to explain you that, for example, if we have let me get the pen, this one. Okay, if we have, this is the structure of an enzyme, this is the, and substrate, this is the substrate A and this is the substrate B. Now A can be easily fit over here like this, right? But if you go for the B structure, if you go for the B structure, it will, this structure will not fit in this thing. So जिस वक्त ये इसमें this A structure इस मैच कर जाएगा, शेप A जो है वो मैच कर जाएगी एंजाइम से like this, so then the enzymes work and convert this into simpler fragments so that they can be digested. So this is a summary of proteins. Proteins play, they are key players in our living systems, and normally consisting of 20 kinds of amino acids. Some are acidic, some are basic, some are hydrophilic, some are hydrophobic. Hydrophilic means water loving, hydrophobic means water repel करते हैं water molecules. So each protein जो है folds into a unique dimensional structure which is defined by its amino acid sequence. Protein structure has hierarchical nature. Protein structure is closely related to its function. ये नहीं कि protein का ये structure अगर ये काम कर रहा है तो बाकी भी नहीं. It is specific in the functions. Protein structure prediction is a grand challenge of computational chemistry, or protein structure go by using the computational chemistry you can predict the different other functions or protein structures by using the computational chemistry or biology. So this is the reference from where I have taken all this information. I hope you understood this lecture. So now guys, last topic is left only, and that is the petrochemicals. So I hope कि मैं आज उसको भी आज जो है वो prepare करके, तो ये सारा data I am going to upload on Monday. ठीक है? So thank you so much for, and please stay at home and stay healthy. Thank you.